Good afternoon, faithful. We are starting this stream a few minutes early because we have definitely had some breaking news here today regarding the San Francisco 49ers and quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. It appears that the 49ers have restructured Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, and Jimmy will be staying in San Francisco through this 2022 season. Absolutely breaking news. I had to acknowledge coming up to this deadline that this was a possibility, but one that I saw as a very remote possibility. Unfortunately, with the results of the last preseason game and this news happening, I'm sure that there will be a ton of negativity cast upon Trey Lance. That's not the angle that we're taking here. I view this as a positive with a big question mark for me. There's no doubt in my mind that the San Francisco 49ers are a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup quarterback over Nate Sudfeld. However, I also fully acknowledge that this may impede the development of Trey Lance. It could get in the way of him taking that next step. It may create a circumstance that feels like a locker room cancer building throughout 2022. However, this locker room feels tight. This locker room feels strong. If there is a locker room that I've seen within the 49ers organization that can withstand the type of chaos that may ensue from this move, I hope it's this room. And certainly if you're looking at a quarterback who can be the backup, as we've seen over the past couple of weeks, sort of towing the company line, Jimmy Garoppolo has done a damn good job of it to this point, awkwardly practicing on the side of the field. This is just very strange, though. I want to get to your comments, no doubt about it. Very excited to get into this news. I appreciate all of you that were here before the stream started. Pete Gorman, Debbie Haddow, Randall Riley, E. Kim, Sean 951 Niners. We have got Spy Nick Danger 187, Raphael 562 Niners, Drew YC, Spy Nick Danger, John Lee, all coming in to get a little bit of news on Jimmy Garoppolo. Let me read you the tweets that came out from Adam Schefter today. First one saying, Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers agreed to a restructured one-year contract that will keep the quarterback in San Francisco this season, per sources. The contract contains no trade and no tag clauses, assuring Garoppolo will remain in San Francisco this season and have the freedom to leave in 2023. So very key there. This is not a sign and trade move. This is not, we're going to restructure Garoppolo and we'll keep exploring trades up until the trade deadline. No, this is Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco for 2023. Cannot tag him after that. Free to go negotiate on his own terms in 2023. So, the compensation update. Many of you waiting on this information. If you haven't read it already, this is a follow-up again from Adam Schefter. Jimmy Garoppolo's one-year restructured deal is worth $6.5 million in base, fully guaranteed, per sources. $6.5 million in fully guaranteed. It goes on to say he has another total of $500,000 in roster bonuses. He also has playtime bonuses that can boost it another nearly $9 million. So 1 year, $7 million, up to just shy of $16 million. So that's very key to note here. I talked about, hey, if they were going to go this route, I would consider it. If you put Jimmy Garoppolo in the $10 million range, I even flexed it 10 to 12 million. People said, way too much. And I had to agree. That's a lot to spend on a backup. But you've seen contracts for an Andy Dalton for $10 million. You see some of these deals going out for players that I would rank below Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, again, I know because he is the devil that you know, 49ers fans may have a harsher view of Jimmy Garoppolo and his abilities than the rest of the league. But I have to say, at a $7 million contract, if he ends up just being the backup, not playing any starting snaps, I would assume he falls closer or at that $7 million amount. That's a phenomenal price for a backup quarterback of Jimmy Garoppolo's freaking qualities. All right, I'm going back through. Greg asking very nicely. I appreciate it. Greg saying, can you repeat that slower? Absolutely. I'm going back through Adam Schefter's two tweets here. First one, Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers agreed to a restructured one-year contract that will keep the quarterback in San Francisco this season, per sources. The contract contains a no trade and no tag clause, assuring Garoppolo will remain in San Francisco this season and have the freedom to leave in 2023. Compensation update. Jimmy Garoppolo's 1-year restructured deal is worth $6.5 million in base, fully guaranteed salary per sources. He has another total of $500,000 in roster bonuses. He also has playtime bonuses that can boost it another nearly $9 million. So 1 year, $7 million contract up to just shy of $16 million. So $16 million is going to be if he starts. I'm guessing that's if he starts, all 17 games or whatever it maxes out. I'm not sure if they have put out further terms. These are the terms I grabbed right before the live. I want to get your thoughts on it. So put in the @Rob and let me know your thoughts about this. I'm going to roll through the comments as well just to get those instant reactions. I'm going to try to keep, for those of you that feel any negativity towards this, if you can keep the cursing out of it, we're going to keep this a PG stream. I'm excited about this news. I will say that I think this makes us a better team in 2022, and I do believe this roster is capable of holding it all together, as demonstrated by their ability to do it last season and so far in the offseason this year, where it was admittedly incredibly awkward. Sean951 comes in to say, Rob, I want to see the restructure they did with Jimmy G. And why would Jimmy G want to restructure when he won't see the field without an injury? Guessing 50% of the money to hold for the trade deadline, and he gets money. So this was earlier. This was about 10 minutes ago before I had put out that there is a no trade clause in there. So this is a renegotiated contract. I think the Niners did very well in getting Jimmy down to a $7 million guaranteed. I would assume he's on the roster so that he gets that $500K in roster bonuses. So I'm going to count this as a $7 million 1-year contract if Jimmy is not required to start any games. Again, acknowledging we need to see the terms of it to verify that's the case. But according to Adam Schefter, we do know $6.5 million in base, fully guaranteed, $500K in roster bonuses, and approximately another $9 million tied to starts, playing time. So again, if he doesn't start, that's going to be a much closer, if not $7 million contract for a backup of Jimmy's caliber. That is absolutely a great deal. Welcoming in new folks here, Raven76, be more new to your channel, just showing support from Baltimore. Appreciate that. Always appreciate folks coming in for the first time. Yes, Alex, correct. Guaranteed for $6.5 million, but $500,000 in roster bonuses that you would have to see as likely to be earned bonuses. You are seeing people react this way. Black Panther coming in to say terrible news, shaking my head. I'm interested to see why people believe it's terrible news. Give me your insights as to why you feel the way that you do. Nick Garfoot correctly pointing out, hey, Twitter is blowing up right now. I believe it. Here's Matt Schuh coming in. Matt, a longtime member of the channel here, Sneakerhead, says the risk of him getting snatched up by the Rams to me is more of a threat. Stafford's elbow is a real concern for the Rams. That's interesting. Whether the 49ers, let me just say this to Matt's point here. If the 49ers had planned to do this all along, wouldn't Jimmy have been in the meeting rooms? Wouldn't Jimmy have had a playbook? Why would Jimmy be cast off to the side as the exile that he was up until this point? This feels like a shift, a last minute, hey, we didn't get any takers. Let's just acknowledge the fact that we are a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo as our backup than Nate Sudfeld. Let's go talk to Jimmy. Doesn't look like anybody's going to make him their starting quarterback. What if we offer to pay him a reasonable amount as a backup? $7 million. Again, for a backup of Jimmy's quality, to me, is a phenomenal deal. Absolutely excited about it. For those of you here enjoying the broadcast, do me a favor, smash that like button so that it goes out to more and more of the faithful. I want to see your reactions. I'm trying to catch up now because that's where the reactions are going to be after I've asked for them. Melvin coming in to say, Rob, again, hit me with the @Rob as Melvin did here. Melvin saying, Rob, if Lance gets hurt behind our offensive line, Jimmy for sure will make a quick exit as he's not mobile like Lance. 2022, not going to be our year for the Super Bowl. One thing to point out about Jimmy Garoppolo is, yes, he is statuesque. Struggles in the pocket, struggles to avoid pressure. If he's getting direct pressure up the middle, if it's right in his face, he generally doesn't respond well to that. However, he does have a very fast release. And some of those balls where Lance is going to have to escape with his legs, Jimmy may actually be able to get that ball out on time as soon as he hits his back foot. So I'm not saying Jimmy is any type of a savior that's going to come in and lift this team. But again, as far as turning the ball over to a backup quarterback, if something were to happen to your starter, I cannot think of a better backup quarterback situation than going to Jimmy Garoppolo as your backup. All right, Flav coming in with the super chat. Let's freaking go, Rob. We are legit contenders this year. So it's intriguing to me to see the two camps of people that believe very staunchly either that this was a saving move or that it somehow really hamstrings the 49ers. I find myself much more in the middle there, but optimistic that, hey, with a backup quarterback, it gives us greater flexibility. Lance can play with greater abandon. Unfortunately, it could be that Kyle Shanahan feels a little safer risking Lance's health while he's out there. I hope that doesn't. I hope that is not the case, but it could open up the run game a little bit. Greg Thames coming in. Rob, that sounds reasonable. It is a reasonable salary. That's what I want to point out here. Absolutely a good deal for the 49ers, regardless of how you feel of the team chemistry of Jimmy fitting in the locker room. People, it is polarizing. 14 Ace Windu coming in to say great news. James Schaefer coming in at Rob. Again, hit me with the at Rob with the comments so I know you're talking to me. Don't like it, but they could be getting better compensation next year versus a trade. LOL. So that is intriguing. You point out here, and I don't know if this was your point, but there won't be a trade, right? And I don't think you're implying that. But he will come to the close of this. The Niners cannot franchise tag him if Adam Schefter is correct in saying that there's a no tag clause associated with this restructure. So Jimmy will be free to leave at the end of this year, and the 49ers will receive a compensatory draft pick in return for Jimmy Garoppolo based on the deal that he signs with his next team. So if he signs a lucrative contract with another team next offseason, yes, the Niners could easily pick up a compensatory third-round pick in the next year's draft, maybe even as high as a second-rounder in there. This is the other side of it, though. I'm a camper on Call of Duty saying toxic locker room all year. I don't know that the locker room will be toxic, but I can sure as hell say that the questions from beat reporters will be toxic. And I don't say that to disparage beat reporters. It has to happen. People have to ask these questions, but it could be unfortunate that the types of conversations this brings up in post-game pressers, if Trey struggles, it's terrible. Ekim, agree with this. This is not the reason they're keeping him. Ekim says, Rob, dumb reason to keep Jimmy for a 2023 compensatory pick. To be clear, they are keeping him because they believe him to be the better backup. EMA Beats coming in. Rob Schuh, I'm not surprised and would expect this versus a cut compromising our playbook info in the long run. Cheat Carroll was drooling. Yes, and to the point earlier, maybe the Rams. Who knows about Stafford's arm at this point? I've not heard anything about it being a long-term concern for Stafford, but I'm not putting it past Sean McVay that he would have brought in Jimmy. Ekim, Rob, this front office has no balls and conviction in Trey with this move. I don't know that I can go that far, but I can understand people taking that assumption. Kim Adams coming in. Rob, I think it's a good deal for the price. It is a great deal for the price. I am with Kim on this wholeheartedly. Michael coming in. Rob Schuh, the Niners should have cut Jimmy a long time ago and used that cap to shore up the offensive line. You know, David Lombardi does a great kind of Twitter profile on this argument of the Niners reallocating that money and making the case that even had they freed up Jimmy's full $24 million, they would not have gone out and pursued that path of going for interior offensive line, as many on Niners Twitter have called out. But look at the restructure here. Jimmy is set to earn $7 million. That is $17 million coming back for the 49ers above and beyond that original $24 million price tag. So they are getting the vast majority of that back. Just $7 million for this contract. I'm going to get to the super chats, but I will not miss those other comments as well. Please keep them coming. All right. Flav coming in with the super chat. Rob, I have to think no trade clause only applies to the Niners as well. I'm sure if a good team loses their starter and wants Jimmy, Jimmy could approve. I had that same thought myself. I think we'll need to actually see the language in the contract. I would assume, yes, a no trade clause generally means that he has the right to veto trades, that he can only be traded with his approval. But if a team like, you know, Cleveland comes along that only wants a starter, just pointing out Cleveland as the last team that was listed as a one-year destination. If it's not a multiple-year deal, you might see him holding out anyway. But I had that same thought. Jimmy could still approve a trade, most likely. I mean, that would be odd to cut himself off from the ability to trade himself. Jimmy J, not to be confused with Jimmy G, who just restructured his contract to stay with the 49ers. Jimmy J coming in here with the super chat. Rob, best decision they could have made. He's better than Sudfeld as a backup and can help mentor Trey one more year. My pops and I have been saying this for weeks as what was the right way to go. I had to acknowledge this entire time as well, Jimmy J, that this was an entirely plausible outcome. And as this trade, as roster cutdown day came around, it felt like the Niners were preparing to do something. The idea that, it just was lingering out there that the Niners weren't cutting him yet. Jimmy wasn't requesting a trade. That was the biggest tell. There were a lot of people calling that out, and rightfully so. Jimmy Garoppolo at any point could have just went nuclear and said, hey, I want to trade right now, release me, and gone public with that request. He really didn't. And at first, it just seemed like, well, Jimmy Garoppolo was being a good soldier in that regard, being team friendly, showing any teams that are interested in him what a good teammate he is. Now it would seem that, hey, maybe he and the 49ers were already in contract discussions at that point. Dustin Kohler coming in with the comic relief. Glad they saved him for the season. Some great reps on the sideline. He's ready. He is ready. But this is it, right? If they were in talks with Jimmy to keep him around, why didn't they give him a playbook? Why wasn't he in quarterback meetings? It strikes me as a move that was decided on at a later point in time, that it was something that they came to recently. I could be wrong about that, but it just has that feeling. William Martin coming in at Rob. Good contract. I just prefer to go all in with Trey. And if you're wrong, live with it. That's solid logic. And I think a lot of fans are here with you, William, that you are, in essence, whether you truly feel this way or not, you are sending a message to the NFL, to your fans, to teams around the league that you don't have complete faith in Trey Lance. And that may not be true. You might just be saying to yourself, hey, I got complete faith in Trey Lance. I'm not real high on Nate Sudfeld as a backup. If Trey gets hurt, he's a mobile quarterback. He runs. He may get dinged up. Trey gets hurt. I don't want to turn the team over to Nate Sudfeld. You could literally say that to yourself, but this will be seen as a reflection against Trey Lance. This will be used. This will absolutely be used by people who do not support Trey Lance, who have been criticizing Trey Lance all along, to say, see, I told you so. And I think it's inappropriate to do so. James Schaefer, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in to say, Rob, both Sudfeld and Purdy probably going to get cut. Who should they add to the practice squad? I'm with you on this. This is a tough question because with Nate Sudfeld, he has the $2 million in guaranteed money. So you would assume that you're keeping Nate Sudfeld around just to offset some of that dead money by keeping him on the practice squad. But Purdy was always the practice squad candidate to me. He's the one that has the future potential. He's the guy that's going to be on a rookie deal that you might be able to have as your backup for the next, 3 years beyond Garoppolo at a very cost-controlled price. I would still be eyeing Brock Purdy for the practice squad personally. Abraham coming in, Rob, I hate this. It shows indecision on the side of the 49ers management. It shows they might not have wanted Trey and did so because of the lashback if they would have gotten Mac. See, this is what comes up by the 49ers keeping Jimmy Garoppolo around. I don't believe this is the case, Abraham. I believe the 49ers have faith in Trey Lance. Sure, they may be saying to themselves, hey, we've got such a stacked team and Trey is going to go through some ups and downs. Let's keep Jimmy around just in case. But they cannot pull the rug out from underneath Trey and give the controls to Jimmy unless it's an injury situation. If you bench Trey, then this was the worst decision that you could have possibly made. Monte Williams coming in. Rob, Jimmy never wanted to leave. That's why Jimmy restructured his contract. Jimmy could have very well said to himself from the outset, my best bet to have a lucrative long-term deal is to stay here in San Francisco. Hope that I get a little more playing time, show what I can do when I'm fully healthy, and earn that next contract. Or he just said, hey, quarterback market dried up, and $7 million here is better than nothing from elsewhere. Pete Gorman coming in. Rob, will they use that money to sign Tart? I think Jaquiski Tart is a possibility. They wouldn't have needed any of Jimmy's money. I think they still had enough cap space available to sign Tart. He was just released by the Eagles, who had signed him to a minimum deal. Tart's contract, if anything, would be a 1-year deal at a very low rate, I would assume. Lycan 4647 coming in with the super chat. I really want them to keep Purdy. I just can't see it now. If you have Jimmy Garoppolo as your backup, there is just no way you should be keeping more than 2 quarterbacks on this roster. To me, you got to hope that Purdy clears waivers and you can put him back on the practice squad. Volley coming in here. I feel so bad for Trey, Rob, just because he will always have a dark shadow over him. I feel like he's going to play scared. This move will make or break Trey's confidence. I do worry about this as well. I'm not going to go so far as to say this is what's likely to happen, but this is my concern, is Trey Lance's maturation, Trey Lance's development, Trey Lance's psyche as he goes out there to start. This has to creep in just ever so slightly a little bit of doubt for him. This has to be oh man, like this is going to be an interesting situation, if not a stressful one. So yes, it is one to monitor. I really thought we were going to be done with this. Hey, if you're enjoying the content, I'm just about to roll into my 53-man roster projections. I will continue to go through the Jimmy stuff, especially with the questions that come in via the chat. If you're watching now, do me a favor and smash that like button just to amp up my signal. Dustin Kohler coming in as our resident Lions fan says, Purdy headed to the Lions. Sorry, not sorry, Dustin says. I'd be okay with that. I'm rooting for the Lions. After this Hard Knocks, and Dustin's my buddy, I got to pull for the Lions a little bit. E. Kim coming in with the question, Rob, so does this move improve the offensive line? This line has more holes than Swiss cheese. I don't believe this O-line is as bad as people are calling it out to be. And no, I don't think that we will see a large investment in anything with these savings. I think the 49ers will maybe make an in-season move, but most likely they're just rolling over this cap space next year. All right, James Schaefer, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Again, love the @Rob, so I know you guys are talking to me. Rob, okay, Jimmy is staying. It is what it is. We go with Trey, but now what are they going to do with the much more concerning, terrible O-line? Back to my comment of not believing it is as atrocious as some are making it out to be. The interior of the O-line did not play as atrociously as the tackles did in the most recent preseason game. And as we all know, the 2 tackles that were out there are our 2 backup tackles. So when you have Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey out on the edge, I think you will see a vastly improved offensive line, and the interior O-line should get better the more reps they have together. Lee Ving. Rob Schuh floated this 2 months ago for $8 to $10 million, as did I, and I viewed it as a reasonable choice to make then. I think it's a reasonable choice to make right now. Papa Phil coming in. Rob, now what was the point of paying Sudfeld $2 million? It's probably going to be wasted money, dead cap. You make these plans with the best of intentions. The 49ers legitimately thought they were going to be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I legitimately thought they were going to be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Most NFL pundits legitimately believed the 49ers would be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. This was a response to an unpredictable situation. This was, the 49ers could not foresee the way in which this played out. If they had foresaw it, they probably would have acted differently along the way, because I believe it was clear they wanted to part ways with Jimmy Garoppolo. Their inability to do so forced them to make what they clearly believe to be the better of a lose-lose type of a situation. Better to have a very well-qualified $7 million backup than to allow Jimmy Garoppolo to play for the Seahawks or the Rams, as people have suggested. Sean 9519 or Sneakerhead here on the channel saying, Rob Schuh, Jimmy's agent must have told him there's no takers for him as a starter, so he may as well stay in San Francisco and not have to learn much if he does need to go in. Otherwise, it's a year off. Yeah, it's $7 million here to be a backup in a system he knows, or go in somewhere else to compete for a backup role or compete for a starting role in a system he doesn't know, where he doesn't have enough time to get up to speed. And a trade that would have had to happen. The Niners clearly didn't want to just release Jimmy Garoppolo. They were not lying about that the entire time. John Lynch saying, we don't want to let an asset like that just go. He was not kidding. Volley coming in. Rob, I just wonder why now? You think they're trying to pick up another big name? I do not. I don't think we will have a corresponding move to this. Leaving. I got to get out the mask. Feels good, baby. Feels great, baby. Feels great. I mean, it is stressful, though. It is very, very stressful. All right. So I also want to get into my 53-man roster projection. That was the purpose of this original video. Obviously, got hijacked by the Jimmy G news. So do me that favor. If you're watching now, go ahead, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. This is the breakdown I have for the 53-man roster. I'm not adjusting it based on the information that has come in. Thankfully, when I was putting it together, there were a couple of cuts that had already happened. One happened yesterday. Another one happened today after I had put together Kadar Holman and Ken Crawley. Kadar Holman was released yesterday. Ken Crawley released today. Both of those players I had no intention of keeping on the 53-man roster. I had already constructed this 53-man when Ken Crawley was released today. I just see there is too much young talent in the cornerback room for the Niners to have prioritized keeping either of those two. They felt like cuts to me. There are a couple of players that I don't have making the roster that would have made it above those vets, in my opinion. So I'm going to go through the 53-man roster here. We are going to get into this thing. Absolutely excited to break it down. All right. So admittedly, I did not predict that Jimmy Garoppolo would still be here with the San Francisco 49ers. I have two quarterbacks on this roster. I saw it as Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld. Now that it's Jimmy Garoppolo, I will take Nate Sudfeld off of the 53-man and put Jimmy G's name in there. I did not think I would be doing that, but I still see this as a scenario where the 49ers are keeping two quarterbacks. So I currently am down one on my prediction. I'm hoping I get everything else right, because who could have foreseen this one, like legitimately foreseen it? People acknowledged it was a possibility, I myself included, but very few people were saying this is the likely outcome. I don't think anyone believed that Jimmy would take a $7 million base salary, right? That is low. That is low. Running back room. Here's where it gets interesting. I've got 5 making the roster on the running back room. By the way, I'm going to get to questions as I see them. Quesadilla Thrilla coming in on the quarterback rankings. Do I feel better with Jimmy G on the roster? Yes and no. I feel better from a purely roster construction standpoint. I'm worried about the locker room chemistry. I think we have a greater positive from the increase on the roster, from the quality of the roster going up, than we do a negative, because I believe this is a very cohesive locker room that is capable of dealing with the stress that will come with this situation. All right, going into that running back room, man, this was a tough one because I want Jordan Mason to make the freaking team. Jordan Mason should make this team. I'm predicting that he's not going to. JaMycal Hasty has had a great training camp for JaMycal Hasty, and he is a change of pace back. It was very hard for me to say that he was not going to make the roster, but so be it. I've got Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., Ty Davis Price, and Trey Sermon as our 4 running backs. Juice as the 5th, rounding out that running back room. Again, Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., Ty Davis Price, Trey Sermon, Kyle Juszczyk. Jordan Mason, I think, is the hardest one for me to say isn't going to make this. If I had an additional roster spot, it would go to Jordan Mason. And quite honestly, I'm coming up on wide receiver right now. I put in 6 wide receivers. If the Niners don't think that 6th wide receiver is contributing on special teams to the level that he should be, I think Jordan Mason is that other player. So if there are only 5 wide receivers, my prediction is it's to squeeze Jordan Mason onto this roster with a 6th running back. I just don't think that is likely. Yeah, Papa Phil saying Trey Sermon. You could hear in Kyle Shanahan's language when talking about Trey Sermon that he is going to make this roster. It's just too early for them to feel like they can give up on him. Monte Williams, though, making the prediction Trey Sermon is going to be cut. When I hear Shanahan describe him, I don't believe it. I think he makes this roster. Showed improvement. All right, Thomas Luttrell coming in with a question. Rob Schuh, with all the performance guarantees for playing time in Jimmy G's new contract, does that mean that $16 million is frozen and we only get $9 million in cap space? It's the likely to be earned money that counts against the cap. I would think as a backup quarterback that playing time would not be a likely to be earned amount. So I would think we would get back that amount. And then at the end of the year, we would get it back anyway if he didn't play, right? If it was determined to be likely to be earned, then they would take it away from the cap. But if he didn't earn it, it then gets reset at the end of the season at some point. All right, Jason coming in with this question here. Jason, Rob, what happens now when Trey has a bad game or slump and the Jimmy chant start? Shows me the organization isn't fully committed, and I think the insurance policy is a cop-out. This is the concern. I think Jason is hitting it squarely on the head, that there's certainly a group of 49er faithful that would rather start Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. There's no doubt that that group exists. And if and when Trey struggles, it's reasonable to assume he will struggle at some point. Those voices will grow louder. That is the concern that I have. I share that concern with Jason here, no doubt. All right, so we've gone through quarterback and running back on the 53-man roster. What about wide receiver? I only kept five running backs, so that left me enough for the 6 wide receivers. First 5 are obvious: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. The 6th one is where it has to be a contributor on special teams for me. And I have Malik Turner making it after the relatively impressive special teams showing that he had in the final preseason game. He has laid some hits there. He's been near the ball. He's punched it out. I think Malik Turner has done enough to show value as a return man. Again, if he doesn't make it and we go with 5 wide receivers, I see that as an opportunity to sneak Mason onto the roster. 3 in the tight end room. I'm going scratch here. I'm going the same as last year. I think George Kittle, number 1, is the obvious choice. Charlie Warner, coming back from injury, will be the blocking tight end, and Ross Dwelley. This was another one that was hard in Tyler Kroft. I believe Tyler Kroft might make this roster, but he was signed late into free agency. He's the type of individual that you could cut now and sign back after week 1 because he is an NFL veteran and therefore not have to fully guarantee his full year salary. Those are the types of moves that creative teams make, and I think the 49ers may be in that list of creative teams. So I see George Kittle, Charlie Warner, and Ross Dwelley as the tight ends. Getting into the offensive line room, I went 9 because I think 8 is just too slim. You got to make spot for Jason Poe. Yes, he makes the roster for me. Here we go. Offensive line, the starters: Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Mike McGlinchey. I am admittedly a little worried about Mike McGlinchey at this point. And then Daniel Brunskill as the primary swing tackle / all-around 6th man. Colton McKivitz, technically also a swing tackle, although with Daniel Brunskill, he may be the top backup at every spot if he is not a starter. Jalen Moore and Jason Poe rounding that out. So again, on the offense, the most likely misses for me, other than acknowledging I have already missed on Jimmy Garoppolo. I had Nate Sudfeld making it. I'm now replacing that name with Jimmy Garoppolo. The most likely misses I see are Jordan Mason making this roster, Tyler Kroft, although I'm following the money. There's only $25,000 guaranteed in his contract, and he was signed 2 months into free agency. Would be easy, I would think, to bring him back if you did not make him, if he didn't make the initial 53-man. And then Brock Purdy. Got to acknowledge that even with Jimmy on the roster, if you're keeping a 3rd quarterback, it should be a developmental one. So Brock Purdy's still a name to keep your eye on. I think, and I literally wrote this. My goodness, I didn't realize I had written this. I should show my notes here. It says Brock Purdy. And I said, I'd like to say, sadly, I think there's a greater chance Jimmy is on the 53-man than Purdy at this point. So I did foresee this a little bit. That's pretty wild that I wrote that out. I don't recall writing it. I was putting together this 53-man, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. But yes, I wrote down most likely misses on offense, Brock Purdy, and in parentheses, I'd like to say, sadly, I think there's a greater chance Jimmy is on the 53 than Purdy at this point. I was picturing just being on the 53 up until his salary becomes guaranteed. No, he is here for the season. All right, I'm seeing some comments to me, so I want to get to it. Leaving Rob Schuh, is there enough Jimmy money left over to trade for win? It should be. I mean, this move theoretically could clear up about $17 million. I believe, and I'd like to have Jason from 49erscap.com on to clarify this. But it's, as far as I know, it's all about the likely to be earned incentives as far as what counts against the cap. So my guess, and this is just an educated guess, is that it'll be $7 million that counts against the cap, basically freeing up, in essence, $17 million. And yes, my prediction, Rob Dadamas. I like it. It's a good nickname. Good nickname. All right. So, and we had a question about Mason. I didn't have Mason making the team. Quesadilla Thrilla saying, Rob, do you foresee Mason making the team, but on special teams? If he's on the roster, it will signal they believe he can contribute on special teams to some extent. That's what I believe. All right, we are on to defense for the 53-man. Keep the questions coming with at Rob Schuh. It's fine if they're about Jimmy Garoppolo. Understand some people will be coming into the stream late. We will get back to the Jimmy Garoppolo news as we close this out. I'm going to be going live with Jack Hammer on his program, 4 p.m., Jack's channel. We will continue the conversation of the 53-man roster cutdown, continue the conversation around Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm very intrigued to hear what Jack has to say about this move. Jack has been saying for a long time that the 49ers are a better roster with Jimmy Garoppolo, echoing my own sentiment there. All right, going into the defense, I've got 11 players on the defensive line making it. The first are obvious: Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Samson Ebukam, Drake Jackson, Hassan Ridgeway, Kevin Givens, Charles Omenihu, Kimoko Toure, Kerry Hyder, and rounding it out, Jordan Willis. Those are my 11. Linebackers, this one feels like a freaking lock. Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shire, Dre Greenlaw, Oren Burks, special teamer, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, also core special teamer. Cornerback, this one was tough because the Niners have so much young talent there, but I'm going 5 on the cornerbacks. Charvarius Ward, E-Man, Emmanuel Mosley, Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, and Ambry Thomas. I don't think the Niners are ready to give up on Ambry. I won't be shocked if there's a 6th cornerback on here as well. I definitely will get into some of the players that didn't make this list that I think could come back on once you get an IR designation, because in safety, first one to make it is Jimmy Ward. He has to make the 53-man roster before he can be put on IR unless they want to shut him down for the entire season. So he has to make the 53-man roster. Someone's got to get cut. Jimmy then gets put on IR where he can come back after week 4, and you bring in someone to replace him. So he's going to be on the original 53. Jimmy Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, George Odom, and Tarvarius Moore. Special teams, obvious: Robbie Gould, Mitch Wishnowsky, Tabor Pepper. The most likely misses that I see for myself on defense in order: Quantrez Knight and Tariq Castro Fields. And I think Quantrez Knight might be the guy that you see brought back after Jimmy Ward is put onto IR. All right, a couple of notes here, and then I'm going to get back into your comments and questions. Any questions about the 53-man roster are totally reasonable. If you need me to repeat any of the position groups, that's great. I will tweet out a copy of this so that we can check how many I get wrong. Clearly got Nate Sudfeld wrong. Did not predict Jimmy staying around, but I did acknowledge he had a better chance than Brock Purdy. So foresaw it a little bit. All right, so acknowledged before I said it that, yes, there was a little bit of cheating about the 2 corners that were already released in Kadar Holman, who was released yesterday, but I had made the list prior to Ken Crawley being released today. But I give you my word, I never had them on the 53-man roster. There's just too much young talent at the cornerback position for the Niners to carry less than stellar vets at this point. I would think they'd keep Tariq Castro Fields above either of those guys as a, outside corner candidate. And I think that those guys are the types that'll be available off of the streets later on, more than likely. After this, after the 53-man, fully expect Jimmy Ward to hit IR. I think that's a given. Not going to lie, I'm not going to be shocked if Mike McGlinchey does as well, since it's only a 4-week IR period, and Mike McGlinchey seems to be a little moving around gingerly out there. It's concerning me. That one is something to keep your eye on, because the Niners need to sneak some extra players onto this roster. I'd expect either Tayshaun Gibson or Jaquiski Tartt to be signed. I think Tartt could come back after being cut by the Eagles. It seemed like a no-go at some point this offseason. But once you're released by Philadelphia, maybe you bring him in. Both of those moves could be made after week 1 so that you don't fully guarantee their signings being NFL veterans. And then potentially a guy like Quantrez Knight might be brought in for week 1. If you're going to wait to sign one of those vets in Jaquiski Tartt or Tayshaun Gibson, maybe you do bring back Quantrez Knight after you have put Jimmy Ward on IR. All right, I want to get your thoughts on both the roster and Jimmy Garoppolo. If you are watching and new to the stream, please do hit that like button, smash it, help me amplify the signal here, and bring in your questions about the 53-man roster projection I just went through, the potential cuts, and Jimmy Garoppolo staying around as a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers into and through, it would seem, the 2022 season. If you're typing in questions or comments to me, hit me with the @Rob or @Rob Schuh. If I have missed any of those, if they came in before about 3:20, you can just copy and repaste. I'm going to start out here at 3:22 in the comments, but I do want to reread, now that we're back to this topic of Jimmy Garoppolo potentially, the tweets that came in from Adam Schefter that let us know Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be here. Here are the details. Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers agreed to a restructured one-year contract that will keep the quarterback in San Francisco this season, per sources. The contract contains no trade and no tag clauses, assuring Garoppolo will remain in SF this season and have the freedom to leave in 2023. Compensation update. Jimmy Garoppolo's one-year restructured deal is worth $6.5 million in base salary, fully guaranteed, per sources. He has another total of $500,000 in roster bonuses. He also has playtime bonuses that can boost it another nearly $9 million. So 1 year, $7 million, up to just shy of $16 million. Again, if you're coming in with the comments or questions, hit me with @Rob or @Rob Schuh. Leaving @Rob Schuh. Is there anything enough? Is there enough Jimmy money left over to trade for? When we got to that one. We got to Abraham's too. All right, Dan, coming in with this one. Rob, just got here. Do you think we shouldn't talk to Tart? Eagles released him. Do I think we should talk to Tart? I do. I got a very real sense from some people who had personal knowledge of Jaquiski Tart's wishes that he wasn't really looking to return, that maybe both the Niners and Jaquiski were looking for a fresh start. The Eagles felt like that fresh start. Now, once you're released by the team that you see as your best option for a fresh start, do you reconsider returning to San Francisco, a system that you know you can play successfully in? And with San Francisco, the injury to Jimmy Ward, you didn't intend to bring back Jaquiski Tart, but now, do you reconsider? I say yes on both counts. I think both the Niners and Jaquiski will reconsider and at least come to the table and have some discussions. I expect to see a report of Jaquiski coming into the Bay Area for conversations. Steven Smith, Rob, is Malik Turner looking to make the team? I have him making it. I have Malik Turner as the 6th wide receiver. That does prevent me, in my mind, from keeping a 5th running back. Now, I'm keeping Juice and 4 running backs, so technically 5 in the running back room, but one of those obviously being a fullback in Kyle Juszczyk. I would like to keep 6 running backs, 5 halfbacks, 1 fullback, but I'm not willing to forego that 9th offensive lineman, and I think the Niners will try and keep it fairly balanced offense, defense. Leaving, coming in, Rob Schuh, Tart, the Niners safety. He is available, and maybe you wait. Again, this is one, if you want to fully guarantee Tart's 1-year deal, you bring him in before week 1. He's there to play in Chicago. He can help you fill in. But if you don't want to fully guarantee his salary, because Jimmy Ward will be back after week 4, and you're just going to have Tart around for a few weeks filling in, maybe you don't sign him before Chicago. Maybe you sign him after Chicago, hoping that Tarvarius Moore or George Odom can fill in against the Chicago Bears, a lesser opponent. Dan coming in, Rob, I'm happy to keep Jimmy 1 more year. It's the right move for both him and the team. It seems to be that is the case. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, by renegotiating his contract to what appears to be a very team-friendly deal, albeit if Trey Lance were to get injured and he starts, Jimmy can make some healthy money, $17 million. But it does lead you to the conclusion that Jimmy at some point finally acknowledged that he doesn't have any other good opportunities out there, that we've reached close enough to the start of regular season, even if he were released tomorrow prior to cutdown, that he would have had to go to Seattle or someplace and try and beat out someone who was entrenched already as a week 1 starter. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 coming in with a question. Rob, who gets cut when Jason Verrett and Jimmy Ward return? I believe they will sign someone to fill in for Jimmy Ward, and whomever they sign, if that is Tayshaun Gibson, I would expect him to then get released when Jimmy Ward comes back. Jason Verrett is an intriguing one and could be a player that they wait to open that practice window, right? It depends on who they have performing at what level, but you could certainly see the case of wanting Jason Verrett to come in closer to the tail end of the season if you're getting good productive play from your cornerback room. You could certainly see a late season, if you don't see progression, a late season trimming of Ambry Thomas if things don't get any better. I mean, it will greatly depend on how the season is going at that point. Steve O clearly not liking this move. Front office, clowns. I disagree, but I understand the sentiment. Abraham coming in, Rob, I'm very upset. I just really wish the 49ers had the courage to show complete confidence in Trey. They are not showing complete confidence in Trey. I agree. Whether that's their intention or not, it is a ancillary effect of what they did in renegotiating Jimmy's contract. Whether they intended to cast shadow upon Trey or not, they have inadvertently done so. And there's just no disputing that in my mind. No disputing it. Dirk Pippen, yes, I know, it's crazy. Oh my God, Dirk Pippen says. Yes, yes indeed. A perfect time for a yes indeed, if you will. Perfect time. All right, Moses Martinez says, Rob Schuh, on one of your shows, I mentioned that Jimmy G will still be on the team at the start of the season. You didn't take me serious. Now can you take me serious? Moses, I don't believe I didn't take that serious. I looked at it as unlikely, and I would staunchly argue, given the way in which this played out, that it was unlikely, that this was a last-minute decision by the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason I can confidently argue that is the way in which they were treating Jimmy Garoppolo up until this point, practicing on the side of the field as if he were a leper, as if he was contagious, right? Not in meeting rooms, not with a playbook, constantly talking about trading him, exploring trades, everyone in the league talking about Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded. This felt like a last-minute compromise when both sides said to themselves, hell, we don't have a better option. This is the best option. This is the best option for us as the 49ers organization to have a high-quality backup. And for Jimmy Garoppolo, when it became clear that no other opportunities were going to open up for him to start, might as well be in San Francisco, where if he is called upon to step in for the starter, he's very familiar with the system. He's able to excel and put in these no trade, no tag clauses so that next year he's free to go wherever the hell he wants. But many people believe, what a cluster, as Steve-O says here. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 coming in. Rob, do you think Shanahan saw something lacking in Trey and moved to keep Jimmy? No, I don't, but this is the storyline that's going to be so problematic. This is the storyline that anyone who had any doubt in Trey Lance is going to run with. It is going to absolutely be, that last preseason game was rough for Trey. 49ers have reconsidered. They're not all in on him. They're going to need to keep Jimmy Garoppolo around. It is a reflection on Trey Lance. I don't believe that's the case. Could it be? Yes, it could. I will acknowledge that might be the case. They might have said, you know what? We need an insurance policy. Trey's going to take some time to get up to speed. He's got some gifts, but he's young, doesn't have the reps. Keep Jimmy Garoppolo around because this roster is just so damn talented that we need a starting caliber quarterback. I believe that this came about much more organically of like the 49ers not wanting to lose face. Nobody trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy seeing that, hey, there's no starting role out there for me. And then John Lynch and Jimmy's team coming together and saying, hey, listen, let's put together a mild lose-lose, mild win-win. You get to stick around here. If you get a chance to start, you make decent money. If you have to start, we have a great backup. If you don't, it's a $7 million insurance policy. I'm comfortable spending $7 million of Jed's money on a backup quarterback insurance policy. This finally underscores what the Niners sold us all last year, that backup quarterback is a freaking important role on this team. And I agreed with it last year when they sold us that bill of goods. So I believe it now. And I'm behind this move from that aspect. Lee Ving coming in. Rob Schuh, Sudfeld, Purdy as backups, and that O-line, Lynch, Shanny know their team. Purdy has got some wheels on him. The guy's got feet. He can move. But yeah, Sudfeld was a statue there, but Jimmy's a statue there. So I don't think it's the offensive line that really sent home this message. I just think it is absolutely best case scenario for both parties. Moses back in with the question, Rob Schuh. So what does it say about Sudfeld and Purdy and their status? Thoughts? I had Purdy making I had Sudfeld making the 53-man in my projections. I believe this supplants Sudfeld. I cannot understand a reason to keep 3 quarterbacks when one of your backups is Jimmy Garoppolo, but if it is a third quarterback on the roster, it should be a developmental one. That would lead me to believe if a third quarterback does make the roster, it's much more likely to be Purdy. I am stating here, I don't think either one makes the 53-man, and I would guess that it is Purdy who makes the practice squad if he's not swooped up by another team. Greg Stone says, actions speak louder than words. No question, this is a no confidence vote for Trey Lance. Terrible decision. See, this is the message that whether true or not, many people will run with, because if you're analyzing actions, it is fair to say, as Greg has here, it shows a vote of no confidence. James Schaefer coming in here, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, I wanted Jimmy out, but I feel better with the cap-friendly restructure. Still O-line concerns for me. If Mike McGlinchey is not fully healthy, 2 rookie guards, unproven center, we will see. James, I'm with you on that. When I say I have confidence in this offensive line, it is with Trent Williams at left tackle and Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. I will admit I am concerned seeing a very short clip of Mike McGlinchey today where he charges out to the right and then is quite gimpy on his right leg where he's wearing the knee brace right now. It's just, he's moving gingerly. That's not the type of thing you like to see with a 300-pound man when he's nursing a lower leg injury. So I am concerned about Mike McGlinchey. The language we have heard so far seems to indicate that he is trending in the right direction, but I will be concerned if McGlinchey is out and we're starting some backups. If McGlinchey and Trent Williams are out there, I feel much better about the center of the line. Luke Walsh, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Rob Schuh, I think that 17 of 22 games I think 17 to 22 game seasons make keeping Jimmy as injury backup for Trey a bigger factor. Oh, you mean that, I think 17, meaning that we have lost players to back. Luke, I'm struggling to decipher that one. Sometimes live, I just can't get them when there's that one word out of place and my brain is like, nope, I can't figure that one out. Sorry, Luke. I will get back to it if you just reword it slightly so that I can figure it out because my brain isn't cooperating. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 saying, Rob, that might be the case. The Quesadilla Thrilla. I don't know what we're referring to, but I like the play on words. Dirk Pippen coming in. Jimmy can definitely still get traded when a contender loses their quarterback, but the poker game is over. Niners folded. He can get traded. Back to this. There is a no trade clause. The Niners cannot trade Jimmy Garoppolo. One would assume that if Jimmy consents to the trade, they could make the trade happen. Dan comes in to say, Rob, a stalemate, if you will. Yes, it was a stalemate, and it has ended in some way. It has ended. It has ended. Melvin coming in to point this out says this restructured contract saves John's reputation. He couldn't trade Jimmy, and he said he would. Now they can spin this as a win. That is very true. I think this has a lot to do with it. The Niners organization saying we cannot let go of a starting caliber quarterback who's going to get scooped up maybe by a team in our division and then start winning there. What if the Niners had released Jimmy Garoppolo? Pete Carroll had swooped him up and the Seahawks outperformed the Niners this year. It would be a shit show. I'm just going to say it. John Lynch would be fired if that were the case. This allows him to save face and to say, hey, I made some lemonade out of lemons, baby. Leaving, coming in, Rob Schuh, 17-day install of the Trey offense. Jimmy is a pure backup. Niners need to make that clear. The Niners need to really make that clear. It's clear to people who have been paying attention. It's clear to people who support Trey Lance. It's clear to people that don't have an axe to grind, don't have an agenda. There is a fair percentage of 49er faithful that are still in the camp of Jimmy Garoppolo, sort of stubbornly, I might say. I still appreciate Jimmy Garoppolo, everything he did for this organization. I fully support Jimmy Garoppolo. Now that he's here with the organization, I will continue to support Jimmy Garoppolo. I will admit that I would have regained more of my sanity had we shipped Jimmy Garoppolo off, but I think that it does make us a better roster keeping him around. But the Niners do need to make it clear he's the backup, but that won't stop fans from chanting for Jimmy if and when Trey does struggle. It's going to be unfortunate. We'll have to put up with it. Those of us that take the high road can be comfortable in that. Luke Walsh has reworded it. This one I'm going to get. Luke, I'm getting it this time. I'm getting it. Says Rob Schuh, does the longer 17-game season and Trey getting hurt last season increase the value of Jimmy as a backup? Absolutely. And to my earlier statement, I think it does allow Trey to play with a little more reckless abandon. Like to this point of when he was, running down the field and going in for his first ever career slide, the entire Niners sideline was like, get down, because their lives flashed before their eyes. They thought to themselves, he's about to get taken out by a freaking defensive back, and our backup is Nate Sudfeld. We need you to get down, Trey. Our season rides on you. That's no longer the case. We know what we can do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Sure, is there a ceiling associated with it? I think there is, but there's also a very high floor, someone who can operate this offense at a very, very efficient clip. And that should allow Trey to say, you know what, to hell with it. I'm going to go out and ball out because, what do I have to lose? I'm the starter here. They have said I'm the starter here. I know that I have the support of this locker room, of this coaching staff. I know Jimmy's just here for one more year. And I've got a quality backup now. If I happen to get dinged up, we've got someone that can step in and carry this team. All right, here we go. Quesadilla Thrilla saying, Rob, with all the negative things that came out about Jimmy Garoppolo, such as ghosting people, the shoulder surgery, he restructured and stayed to rebuild his market value. That's an interesting one. So Quesadilla Thrilla had done a typo to put in restricted to restructured. That's why I knew that. Interesting thought there, that there were some things coming out about Jimmy that didn't paint him in the greatest of lights. Staying in San Francisco allows those storylines to die off, for him to regain his status and get a better contract next offseason. Could absolutely be. I do agree with this. The Recovery 716 saying way better than having him go to the Rams or the Sea Turkeys. I like the Sea Turkeys. It's not as bad as some of the nicknames we have for Seattle. Not as rude, but it's nice and lighthearted. I'm here with it. Yes, I didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo in Seattle, even though I didn't fear it. I didn't want that to be the case. Mark Jacobs, 69, coming in. Hi, Rob. It's been a while, my friend. I think this is a really smart move by the Niners. Appreciate you being back, Mark. Hey, we're getting closer to regular season. I know there will be a lot of Niner faithful returning to the stream that weren't here before. If you're fresh to the stream now, started over an hour ago, do me a favor, smash the like button. I'm going to be going on live with Jack Hammer on his program starting at 4 p.m. So in a few minutes, I will wrap this stream up to give me enough time to go get myself a glass of water. But if you have final questions about the 53-man roster projection that I went through, or any of the Jimmy Garoppolo news, please go ahead and put it in. And we do have returning members. Lapaka Lolo is back. Lapaka Lolo, sneakerhead here on the channel. Cheers. Cheers. Welcome. I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe wholeheartedly that is a welcome back to the sneakerhead community. Certainly a welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you back. Newest sneakerhead here on the channel. Anyone wanting to become a sneakerhead, once you've hit the subscribe button, you can hit the join button there. That will allow you to become a sneakerhead. Lee Ving saying, Rob, just cross streams? Never cross streams. Never cross the streams. That's what brings out the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Lee Ving. We don't want that. We don't want that. No, but I will be over on Jack's channel starting up in just a moment or two. So let's go back through it. We went through the 53-man roster. I have 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 9 O-linemen. I went through and named them all earlier in the stream. 11 D-linemen, 5 linebackers, 5 cornerbacks, 4 safeties, acknowledging Jimmy Ward will then be put on IR, and someone else will be brought back in. But Jimmy does have to make the 53-man. Otherwise, they'd be shutting him down for the full year if they put him on IR prior to him making the 53. And then 3 special teams players. Those are the easiest ones to put in, right? Robbie Gold, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper. Lock, lock, lock. Love it. Lapaka Lolo says, yes, back for the season. Looking forward to the triumphant return of many sneakerheads and channel supporters, because the offseason is not for the faint of heart. The offseason is for those of us that are obsessed to a level of unhealthiness. All right, John B. coming in, loving it. John B. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Excited to get your take here. Rob, just got off work. This Jimmy deal just extends their window to trade him. Best option to keep him out of the division. It doesn't. There is a no trade clause as called out by Adam Schefter. So the Niners do not have the right to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. One would expect that Jimmy could still trade himself, right? If he finds a team he wants to go to. But the Niners also have to agree to that. So it becomes tricky. I see this as a very likely move that keeps Jimmy Garoppolo with this team throughout the entirety of the 2022 season. I don't think this will develop into a sign and trade type of move, although I acknowledge that is a possibility. Again, no trade clause. Jimmy Garoppolo would have to sign off on that trade. Yep, Quesadilla Thrilla also calling out the no trade clause. But again, if Jimmy wants a trade, I can't imagine the language in the contract prohibiting him from seeking out that trade. But the Niners would need to be on the same page with that. And if they've cut Nate Sudfeld and they're rolling with Jimmy as the only backup quarterback, again, doesn't seem likely to me. CJ Gray, though, pointing out, CJ, welcome to the stream. He says more teams should be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, being that the number is lower, markedly lower. If he's going to be your backup at $7 million, I would argue that might be the best backup quarterback / value for a backup quarterback in the league, given what Jimmy can do and given that price tag. If he doesn't start any games for you, he's just an insurance plan. $7 million is a great deal. I agree with this logic. I think here, Gold-Blooded coming in to say, reading some of these comments only shows the true fans and the player fans. How can you be mad at having the best backup quarterback in the league? If Trey gets frazzled, he shouldn't be an NFL quarterback, period. The last part might be a little bit over the top in how you phrase it there, Gold-Blooded. I get what you're saying there. Absolutely get what you're saying, that if this flusters Trey, if simply having Jimmy in the locker room is enough to frazzle him, well, then he's probably not cut out to be an NFL quarterback. I could take the other side of that and say that there's already enough pressure to this situation, enough that most normal human beings would crack. Trey Lance seems to be made of the right stuff to where he won't crack. And I could argue that why add more pressure? It's already hard enough to be one of the youngest starting quarterbacks in the NFL ever, and you're in your second year. It's already tough to be the face of a franchise that gets as much scrutiny as the San Francisco 49ers. It is already tough to be filling in for a well-liked quarterback, both inside the locker room and in the fan base for the most part. And now you've added on to that. So I get what you're saying there, and there is certainly an argument to be made for it. I will also say it didn't seem necessary to add more pressure. John B coming in. Rob, didn't see the clause, but since it's there, it almost shows everyone his surgery murdered his value. It does. It does. I mean, what is clear is this saves some face for John Lynch. He was going to have to cut him, and that would have been egg on his face. No doubt about it. You're trading cutting a starting caliber quarterback, getting nothing in return. Would have been an egg on his face. Now you can say, we got a starting caliber quarterback as a backup for $7 million. And you start to sell that as the narrative. I absolutely see that as the path forward. Notorious GAV predicting Captain Juice coming soon. Real soon, Gav. What do you think of this news? What do you think? Leaving Rob Schuh. Trey has thrown less than 400 passes, college and the NFL. Can't even get the Josh Allen development timeline. No, but they no guarantee that if he struggles, the Niners do anything irrational. It'll just be the fan base calling for Jimmy. That'll be unfortunate. Joey Nichols, he's back. Best backup quarterback situation in the NFL. Feels great, baby. This is the excitement that a lot of fans will feel. And as far as the roster strength, I agree. It's better. Charles Thurman, sneakerhead here on the channel, saying, Rob, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If no offensive line, neither one will do anything. I'm not in the camp where I think this offensive line is as atrocious as people are saying. I don't believe it's atrocious at all. I think we're going to see a top half of the league style offensive line, top 10 in run blocking, top 17 in pass blocking. I think we'll always be a stronger run blocking unit than pass blocking unit. I see the pieces there to come together here. Luke Walsh, Rob Schuh, think Lynch and Shanny talked to Trey to give him a heads up before re-signing Jimmy. I sure hope they did. He's your starting quarterback. He's the face of the franchise. I hope you paid him that respect. The notorious GAV, Rob Schuh, does Jimmy's restructure make a trade more likely? No, there is a no trade clause. No trade clause. DJ Molly is in here with the same question, saying, would this just make it easier to trade Jimmy G now, Rob? No, there's a no trade clause. So if Jimmy wants a trade at some point, yes, potentially. For the 49ers, no, they are committed to Jimmy this year and cannot franchise tag him next year. They are going to have him as a backup this year, most likely, unless Jimmy wants to be traded. And then they'll get a compensatory pick based on whatever it is he gets signed to next. All right, going to take a couple more and then need a 5-minute break before I get on with Jack Hammer. Going to be on Jack Hammer's channel at 4 p.m. Dynamite Dave says, Rob Schuh, you ever heard of if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, then you have none? Shaking my head. I have definitely heard that. Could apply. You never know. You never know. I like this reaction. What the frick? What the frick? I'm telling you. I'm comfortable with the salary and the fact that we have a quality backup here. Quality backup. I don't think it's a 2-quarterback system, to Moses Martinez's question here. I think it is quality backup depth. It does make the 49ers a better roster. It does also admittedly add drama that I didn't want to be a part of this year. I'm going to take a quick break. I will be over on Jack Hammer's program, so tune in over there. Do me a favor, smash the like button on the video before you go. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. All sorts of content coming out. If we have more updates, I'll bounce back in. Otherwise, look for the mailbag tomorrow. I'd love to have your questions. Hit me on Twitter @TheLeftShoe or send me your questions via email, 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Hit me with all your Jimmy questions. 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. The mailbag will be on tomorrow live at 5 p.m. Hope to see all of you there. Until then, cheers.